Growing up on New Zealand's coast, Erin Burke was schooled early in financial literacy. Her parents had her work full-time in summer holidays and save a portion of her paycheck. Initially in government, her career unexpectedly pivoted into the fast-paced world of finance. Her latest role? Leadership at a global FinTech platform. So is she a game changer? Let's find out. I'm Gemma Acton. Welcome to Game Changers in partnership with Logicalis. Erin, let's start with your childhood and how your experiences during that period of your life set some guiding principles for you.
I grew up in a small town, a small beach town, which I loved. And it meant I grew up in a very close-knit family, which has, flowed through into my adulthood. I'm still very close with my parents and my sisters, and we talk all the time. But I also grew up with parents who didn't grow up with a lot. And so they were very keen that we were educated so that we could financially take care of ourselves and had strong financial literacy skills, which has actually really helped me in my job because I do a lot with budgets. And I maintain if you can run a household budget, you can run a company budget to a certain degree. And it just gave us this hard work ethic that we needed to make sure we could always take care of ourselves. And so that's really flowed through as I've gone through my career, that I have been very conscious about the steps I'm moving to make sure that I'm setting myself up for not just success but longevity.
You obviously grew up with a very healthy respect for money and earning. When was your first job?
I think I worked in a fish and chip shop when I was about 14 or 15 from memory, but then there was a supermarket job and jobs throughout university. But my parents were very keen on, they covered all our educational experiences and gave us a small allowance, but if we wanted to do anything beyond that, we had to get a job. We had to pay for that ourselves. We got taught, when you get paid, a certain amount goes aside for savings for a big thing that you might want in the future. But they weren't there to fund our lifestyle outside of the things that good parents fund. But if we wanted fun things, we were old enough to start working for it.
So you were taught not to go for instant gratification, which is, I think, a lesson that many people would benefit from these days. Aside from learning how to manage money at an early stage, what else did some of your earlier jobs teach you?
It probably taught me about just getting in and getting stuff done. I worked, even going back to that sort of fish and chip shop job, there was 2 or 3 of us working at any one time. So you had to work the cash register and the fryer and wrap the orders and take the phone calls and stuff like that. So it just built these habits. And particularly at my university jobs, which were summer jobs, where you were working as much as you could so you wouldn't have to work during the year. You were doing everything so that they'd want to give you more hours and so that you could maximise how much you were earning across that period. And it just built a habit of, well, it doesn't matter if it's not my job, just get in and get it done because it needs to be done.
I love the discussion about the fish and chip shop work because it sounds like it was very fast paced. And if we come all the way through to your career now, you're really sitting at the junction of technology and finance, both of which are sectors that move very quickly. So I think it probably set you up quite well.
Very much so. Pepperstone is, it's a global company with offices all over the world. We move at pace from a technology perspective and from a client experience because our goal is always to have a premium client experience. So there's no slowing down. There's no sort of off time, which I thrive in because I love a little bit of chaos in my life. But you need a certain level of resiliency to do it, and you need an ability to take care of yourself so that you can deliver your best work, because if you just keep running a million miles an hour, you're going to burn out.
You also need a degree of resilience to do your exact role, which is Head of Procurement for IT.
Head of Procurement and Support for the whole company, so not just IT.
This is not a job for the faint-hearted. It requires quite a lot of negotiation, standing your ground, knowing the value that you deserve and you're willing to fight for. How did those skills come together for you?
I think it comes from, both my parents worked in banking when I was younger. My mother was a mortgage broker, my dad worked in business banking, and so I saw a lot of relationship building just with what they were doing at different levels. And for me, that's really formed how I manage my contracts and manage relationships with suppliers, is that I can have a really hard conversation with someone if there's a trust relationship behind it. I can tell them if they're not performing, I can tell them if I need a better financial deal, because we're all working towards the same goal and we're all going to walk away knowing we had a respectful conversation, even if it was a difficult conversation. And I think in my space, that's the most important part, is that you have to be able to have positive and negative conversations, and the best way to do that is through partnership.
One company you've partnered with for a long time is Logicalis. Talk to us about your initial involvement with them, if you can remember that far back.
So I actually worked with Logicalis when they were called Thomas Durea, from memory, about 5-6 years ago. There wasn't the managed service element or the true partnership approach, but they were always, even at that point, responsive, which I respect in a supplier. You know, I move fast, I have a lot I have to get done all the time. So a supplier that's listening to what I'm saying and responding at the pace I need to, and understanding the different drivers that I'm trying to manage at any one time is really, really valuable in my world. And so I worked with them, 5-6 years ago in that space, and then just as I've moved through other companies, they've already actually been in place in most places. At Pepperstone, I brought them in, just doing different things depending on what that company needed, but I've seen the different ways they can help. I've seen the way they step up for me. I know if I'm in a bind and I need something done urgently, I can pick up the phone to my account executive and he's going to respond and he's going to help me solve that problem, because for them, and this is so critical in my world, is it's not about the transaction today, it's about the relationship over the next 5 years. And that's what they value, which aligns with my values.
You've done extremely well already. Head of procurement is a big role. Finance and tech are sectors which require a lot of intelligence, a lot of relationships, as you said. They're also traditionally sectors that have been dominated by men. Has this ever come up for you as something that's either helped or hindered you?
Goes a bit of both ways. I'm not going to pretend there's probably hasn't been elements in my career where I might have been an equal candidate and the other candidate was male and I was selected because they were trying to hit certain targets. I firmly believe I still got those roles because I was the right skills and experience. And there has been difficult times where people are assuming you're the team administrator and can you get them coffee even though you might be one of the most senior people in the room. But it's lessons I've learned about taking up space. I'm not going to apologise for taking up space. I have every right to be at that table. I have every right to be heard. And I will say to someone if they're speaking over me, can you please let me finish? You can be professional, you can be firm, you can be clear with people. But it takes a resilience again to constantly have to do it, because it is not an everyday battle, but it's something that pops up on a regular basis.
Do you find that resilience and that confidence and your ability to be firm and clear and decisive without being rude is something that you have developed over time?
Definitely. I think when I was younger, I didn't think it was okay for me to ask questions for clarifications. I didn't think that my opinion or my expertise was as valuable maybe as other people at the table. But I've got the fortune of two very successful sisters as well, and between the three of us we kind of hype each other up to stand our ground and make sure, we're hired for a reason, we're very good at what we do and we have every right to be heard, but it's like growing a muscle in the gym. You kind of have to work on it and be a bit brave sometimes. And you might walk away afterwards saying, oh God, I feel sick. I can't believe I did that. But if you do it in the moment, it gets easier, it becomes a habit. And I've never been accused of being unprofessional or rude when I've done it, because there's ways and means to do it. But when I do it, people don't do it again afterwards.
Erin, is it important for you to bring other women along and share in the success?
100%. I mean, a lot of the things I do is to role model those behaviours, and I say it to particularly younger women who are sitting at the table. They might ask me questions afterwards. I'm always happy to answer it, but I encourage them to ask them in the meeting. I encourage them to speak out. It's the same with my friends. Ask for what you deserve. We deserve to be there. We deserve to get paid what the role is worth and the work you're delivering. And I will help you however I can, but we all kind of have to be a bit brave sometimes.
It's a big job. We've talked about there's a mental load as well as the everyday learning and just like the pure physicality of going to battle every single day. How do you keep your life in balance? Like you've talked about your family, your sisters being important to you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of moving my body. Like it's the thing where, if it's Pilates or weight training or whatever it is, it becomes almost a numbers game in my head. All right, it's only 8 more reps. 8's a small number. Okay, you've done 4, you're 50% through. And for me, that gets me out of my head. It gives my brain a break where I'm not thinking about work, because the nature of being this senior, it's very hard to switch off. Even on the weekends, you're like, okay, I have to do this and I need to make sure I get this contract out and all those things. So those moments where I'm fully focused on something else that's also good for my body is really helping me maintain my balance.
It is such a fascinating time in the tech industry at the moment. AI has been the buzzword for the last couple of years, but it just seems to accelerate the pace at which everything's moving. What big developments do you see happening, both in tech broadly, but also more specifically in the role you do?
So AI is a huge player. It's in every product that I've got in my ecosystem at the moment, and you really have to start asking hard questions about what is the value of this, because there is a mad rush to market for people to get AI tooling out, and it's not always great tooling. And it's not cheap tooling by any stretch of the imagination. So my role is very much, what's the value we're going to get? How are we going to use this? How are we going to turn it on? How are we going to help people be enabled to use it? Because you can turn these tools on and people won't use them because they don't know how. It's fundamentally changing how people are working. So that's a really big change. Naturally in finance, how crypto is going to play out over the next couple of years and how governments are going to respond to that. Everyone's keeping an eye on it and making sure that we're able to benefit from that or move to meet the need of that as it goes. In terms of procurement, it is a real shift away from more transactional engagements with suppliers.
Erin, you mentioned you've been working alongside Logicalis for 5 or 6 years. I imagine you've had a few people on the other end of that relationship over the years. Is it the culture that's persisted rather than individual one-on-one relationships in terms of being a strong, enduring partnership?
100%. I mean, I've got an account executive that I've worked with for a number of years, and I very, very much value him and how he works. But he's brought in different team members from across the business, across the years, to help and support and respond. And it is always how can we help? How can we work with you? Everyone comes with that energy, as opposed to, well, this is what we do, you take it or leave it. And that's a consistent theme I see from everyone I engage with at Logicalis.
Erin, can you tell us about any of the projects you've worked on that have made a big impression on you?
Sure. So recently I worked with Logicalis to transition us from one productivity suite over to the Microsoft productivity suite. And these can be really disruptive projects, and they can drag on for a very, very long time if you don't have the right partner helping and you don't have business buy-in. And with Logicalis, we did it in about 4 months, which is almost unheard of in my world. It went so successfully, and part of that was Logicalis going to Microsoft and getting the information that we needed, being able to have the conversations to ensure that we weren't just buying everything off the shelf. We were buying the stuff that we needed and was going to best set us up for moving forward as we move to the Microsoft suite.
Erin, for anybody who's having difficulty getting their voice heard, getting their point across, being taken seriously, getting the respect that they deserve, what advice would you have for them?
I think it's one, ask questions, because often you don't feel confident speaking up because you don't know the content that you want to speak up about. So get your clarifications, get really comfortable with the content that you're talking about, and then to just be a bit brave. I know it feels scary, I know you feel like you can't do it, but I promise you nothing bad is going to happen. If you are respectful and polite about it, nothing bad is going to happen. And at the end of the day, you can always go back and fix things. But you have to back yourself. You have to know you were hired for a reason. You are skilled and experienced. It's okay to show that off. There's nothing wrong with voicing where you are and what you're capable of bringing to the table. But I think it is, and I say it to a lot of my friends, and I say it to the young women that I've worked with, it's that you have to be a bit brave.
Terrific advice to end on. Erin, thank you so much for coming into Game Changers today.
Thanks.